Hello, all. This is Dr. Dave Maslag talking to you about reciprocity.com. And in this particular video, I want to talk about being a PhD vlogger or a vlogger as a professor and whether it's actually worth it and maybe some things that you'd want to consider before you actually do this. So if you don't know me, I am a professor of innovation strategy and entrepreneurship. And I created this whole reciprocity project to give back as much as I possibly can. There were so many people that helped me out to get through graduate school that I wanted to pay the favor forward somehow and help out other people. So I started doing these YouTube videos. Actually, I created a sharing economy proofreading application called the reciprocity.com. But to get the word out, I started doing these YouTube videos. So here we go. Should you become a PhD vlogger, or if you're a professor and you're thinking of vlogging on a regular basis and going and doing the YouTube thing like I'm doing, these are things that I've learned and maybe things that you considered. So I've been doing this for about 2 years now on a pretty regular basis. And I do get the occasional comment, especially now that I'm actually getting a little bit more traction. And I'm starting to see a little bit of the returns of all of that and all of that action in the past, all that behavior that I've done in the past. So people will come up to me and they'll ask me if they, should do a particular blog or a vlog on this thing, or, become a YouTuber on this thing, or create a YouTube channel on that thing. And I'm always cautious with this material, or with sort of suggesting different things for them. And these are the things that I would consider if you're thinking of doing, maybe you're a PhD student and you're thinking of becoming a vlogger of some sort, or doing a vlog, or, you're a professor and you're thinking of doing the vlogging thing, YouTube things. These are the things that I would consider. So these are the most important things at the beginning before you even do anything, and you have to weigh your pros and cons, your costs and benefits before you actually choose this. So the first thing is that there's like no monetary returns out of YouTubing. Or let me correct that. There are monetary rewards far out into the future, and it takes a long, long time before you actually get there. Or, if you're really lucky for whatever reason and you have sort of a style that resonates with people, then maybe you're going to get a little bit of success at the beginning. But in general, there's kind of a slow, steady progress that you get, or progress that you actually get along the way before you actually get any sort of benefit. And that's not unusual in any area, right? So being a professor of business, what you look for with growth is kind of just a regular trajectory over time. The ones that are kind of unicorns, that's what they're called in Silicon Valley, where things just kind of explode, a company explodes, or maybe a YouTube person, or maybe a blog just explodes overnight. Those are extremely rare, and they're essentially impossible to predict. I actually study learning from rare events, and they're very, very difficult to predict for many different reasons. But you want to look for the steady progression over time, where you're just growing and steadily growing over time. That's actually a great way to think about that. And that's what you should expect. So don't expect, if you're starting out and you put out your first 25 videos, or even 100 videos, don't expect to get very many views on those videos unless it's on a very popular topic. It's just not going to happen that much, and it just takes a long time before you actually get views on that. So vlogging and YouTubing actually requires, this is the second thing, it requires a fair bit of keyword research and sort of going in a particular topic and understanding that particular topic. In doing a lot of investigations, not entirely intuitive doing this keyword research. And that was sort of mistakes that I've learned along the way, or things I've learned along the way. If you get the right keywords at the beginning, then it makes a big difference going forward in what actually happens. But if you are just vlogging and telling your story, and not really, telling who you are and what you're all about, nobody's ever going to search for that. So nobody's ever going to search for David Maslag, right? I mean, very few people are going to search for that, but I know some other topics that people are going to search for. So, stuff doing with PhD and sort of different ideas of PhD stuff. They do, some people search for those, not a lot, but people do search for them, and that's stuff that I know. So I want to actually talk about that and sort of get help you out as much as you possibly can. The other thing that you should be considering with this is framing the way that you're doing things. So the way that I did things for a long time at the beginning is I was framing them about me, but it's not about me. It's actually about you. And that's why a lot of these videos are sort of geared towards being as helpful as I possibly can for you, because people are not going to pay attention to anything that you say unless it sort of makes sense for them and resonates for them. If I'm telling them about me and all the wonderful things that I do, then nobody's going to pay attention to that, right? Like, nobody is really interested in what David Maslach has to do. And more people are interested in sort of helping getting this helpful information going forward. The third thing, and I think this is really unique and different for people that are PhDs or people that are thinking of doing the academic route, a professor, for example, an assistant professor. This was a really big thing for me, that you are putting your academic career at risk. There's a lot of people that are not going to understand what you're doing, and you're speaking out on a regular basis, and you're doing activities that are considered kind of wasteful in the academic game, right? You're not writing papers. You're not doing, reviewing other people's papers and things like that. It is kind of a luxury, and it is not considered a normal activity to do. And anytime that you're doing anything that is considered not normal or novel, you're putting yourself at risk, and you are going to be examined by other people around you that might be doing the whole tenure evaluation thing and looking at you. So you really, really want to consider that. The other thing you want to consider is what you're actually saying and what you're trying to get out, right? So I'm pretty strategic with what I say. I'm always monitoring what I'm saying. You notice that there's limited, I don't think I ever swear. I don't think I ever say anything too bad, because I want this to be family friendly. But as well, I also want other people, other PhDs, to not look at me and say, you know what, this person is a complete jerk, and I should be paying attention to him. I could do things. There's a lot of channels that do a lot of that kind of stuff. And frankly, it turns me off. But as well, I have to think about that and worry about that. It could put my job at risk for a number of different reasons if I'm considered too out there. And so that's stuff that you have to consider. And then the fourth thing, and a lot of people just don't think about this or don't consider this, and I've had to think about this in various different ways. That's why I don't mention my university where I work. I'm very careful with that, is because of intellectual property issues, right? So you have to really consider that and what you're doing. And you probably want to, once you start getting some growth at the beginning, it probably doesn't matter, but you probably should still have a little bit of a conversation if you're doing any of these kind of activities like blogging, vlogging, or anything, YouTubing. You probably should have or just think about what the policies are at your university for commercialization and intellectual properties issues, because sometimes that does matter and that will play out in the long run. So you'd want to consider that going forward. Really incredibly important to do that. That's why I don't do any of these videos in my office at work. I'm pretty careful about that, and I'm learning to become more and more careful about that. So you have to really, really pay attention to that going forward. I'd highly stress that, because that's going to matter for you in the long run. So here are some of the rewards of doing PhD vlogging, or vlogging, professor vlogging, whatever you want to call it. The first thing is you really do get to meet people from all over the world virtually. I actually don't meet them too much in person. And the other thing that's kind of weird is people start to get to know who you are, and sometimes they will just send you, either you'll bump into them. So, going to conferences and stuff, they'll point out that they watched a video or that they've seen something. Right now, I get a lot of people sort of seeing or impressions and views on a regular basis. Lots of people watch these videos. I don't see who's actually watching them. Or I often don't, but it's kind of interesting to see that when you bump into somebody at a conference and they're like, oh, I watched your video. The other thing that's really nice is I get on a somewhat regular basis now, not all the time. And if you're watching this and this is helpful for you, please do leave a note. I do appreciate it in the comments below. You could also send me, an email or something like that. You can find me. and send me an email. I do get those on a regular basis from other people that are just saying, sending a nice note saying they really appreciate what I'm doing. It's really, really nice. It tears me up inside to get that kind of stuff. It is so incredibly nice of you to send those things. And I do incredibly appreciate it when I see those comments. It's so, so incredibly nice, because I know that what I'm doing is worthwhile. And it makes sense for me to continue doing these things because there's very little returns. It's like blogging. It's like anything like this, right? Or writing papers, there's very little returns in the immediate future, or in the present, but hopefully in the long run, it does help other people dealing with these kind of issues. So the other thing, the second thing that I think is really important that happens is you do get to work on your public speaking skills. So before, when I was doing my PhD, and up until I became an young assistant professor, I was really incredibly shy with talking in front of people. It's in the predominant reason is I wasn't getting experience. So I study learning. And if you don't get experience, you're just not going to be good at that particular activity, and you're going to feel uncomfortable with that activity. So doing these YouTube videos, although there's like nobody around in my house right now, I'm still speaking to an audience, and I get used to that. So on those days where I'm actually, sitting there reading and writing, it forces me to actually talk in some sort of way, and it gets easier for me to do that. It's not conversational in the sense that I'm not bantering back and forth with other people. It's something I still struggle with, but it is kind of this lecture style thing, and I've improved massively with sort of the lecture style things and kind of making things up as I go, particularly within the classroom. It does help me out a lot. So that's a really positive benefit, the sort of public speaking aspect of it, and not being nearly as afraid of speaking in front of people. It's just like Toastmasters or something like that. And by the way, I've done Toastmasters in the past, and it's wonderful. I'm just putting a pitch in for that. The other thing, so the third thing that I want to talk about in terms of a benefit, it's really YouTubing and vlogging. It's really, really fun. And, if there's people that are doing this kind of thing, I'm open to sort of sharing and discussing things with experiences of why it's fun. And it's just a really wonderful way to waste time. If there's something that you're going to do, and I've heard all sorts of advice with sort of wasting time during your PhD and what's sort of a good thing to waste your time on. A lot of people would say do something that nobody else is, like, that you can't sort of correlate with what you're doing as in your regular job. But I know a lot of people do the vlogging or blogging thing. Vlogging is really not common. YouTubing is really not common. And so this is something that's different, and I really enjoy it because it is something that is not work, but it is kind of work. And so I really, really enjoy that aspect of it. So it's fun. And it's fun to sort of see progress going up or progress going down and making changes and things like that. I don't know why. It's just kind of motivating, right? The other thing, so the fourth thing is that it can be a giant stress relief, or it can be really a way to vent, particularly if there's a tough thing going on in your life. A lot of the stuff I talk about is actually deeply personal. And there's a lot of things that are going on in my life, like everybody's life, that we're all dealing with, right? So dealing with these kind of things, it's very therapeutic. It's very helpful. But so given that, it's also stressful in the sense that it adds another demand to your day, and doing things on a regular basis, no matter what it is, it's another demand. And so you're prioritizing, you're thinking in your mind, well, I should be writing right now, but I should do this video. And so you kind of have this, cognitive dissonance that's happening in your mind, I guess, is the feeling. And you're struggling with that. And it's, it's just something that you have to struggle with. So it's another stressor that you put on your life. And I'm a big proponent of removing as many stressors as you possibly can, and sort of activities that you're doing. But for me, it's fun, and I enjoy it because of this whole stress relief thing. And now the fifth thing that I think is wonderful, and it's not discussed nearly as enough, I think, from YouTube's perspective, the people at YouTube that work and have built this wonderful platform, it's a really wonderful way to share your story. and talk about what you are doing. And I think that was what the original goal with YouTube is, just sharing your stories and sharing what you're all about. And the benefit of this, from my perspective, and somebody that studies learning and benefits of sort of economic value of knowledge and things like that, there is a tremendous benefit from this in terms of the knowledge spillovers that other people get. So telling your story and having another story out there for people to sort of see and realize that this is kind of a real thing. That's the benefit of, written work is like, yeah, it's not real. But when you see somebody in person or see somebody in video, it's a way more real, because you get all these contextual clues, right? You don't see this kind of stuff. You don't see my tone and things like that when you're in written work. And so the knowledge spillover component of it is just wonderful. It's truly is amazing to have that. And so somebody in 10 years from now is going to pick up this video and watch this and sort of get something from it. Maybe they won't, right? But hopefully that's my expectation, is 10 years from now, they're going to get something from this. And it will help them sort of make a decision on whether they should be a PhD vlogger, do the YouTubing as a PhD, or do sort of YouTube videos as a professor. If this is you right now, if you're making that decision, please do leave comments on what you're thinking. Maybe leave comments on where you're from and what you're all about. And I'd be delighted to find out more about that kind of stuff. It's really wonderful to see it. It really, deep down in my heart, it's really, really nice. So that's all I'm going to say. What I've done in this video is sort of give you, some of the costs in sort of the downfalls of doing a PhD, doing blogging as a PhD or blogging as a professor. Blogging as a professor, and whether it's actually worth it. So personally, I think it's worth it. The costs are not nearly as large as the benefits. But, for a lot of people, yeah, and for me, starting out, you can watch some of my older videos. You can see I was really cautious. I'm still really cautious from time to time, depending on what's going on in my life. But it's become part of me and what I'm about. And I personally feel I benefit tremendously from that. So the other thing I did with this video is I gave you some of these rewards that are really nice, really fun, and hopefully you run with it. That's what I want to see, and I would love to see other people doing this kind of stuff, and maybe sharing their stories a little bit more. And if you do, happy to have discussions with you about it online. Of course, on the whole YouTube thing, because I'm a big proponent of that. All right, so take care. Have a wonderful day, and I'm looking forward to seeing you on the next video. Oh, give me a like on this video. Bye.